So here we are at the end of J-Horror July, and there's a glaring omission so far that some may consider the granddaddy of J-Horror. That would be 1998's Ringu. This was directed by Nakata Hideo and written by Takahashi Hiroshi from Suzuki Koji's novel. This stars Matsushima Nanako, Ota Karikia, Ino Rie, and Sanada Hiroyuki, who I wanted to talk about because I saw him first in this, and his career has been amazing. He's been so many places, he's done so many things. You know him in so many stuff, both in East and Western stuff, but apparently he has an MBE, an honorary MBE, should I say, technically, but for doing Shakespeare, because spreading the word of the bard is apparently enough to get you an MBE these days. But in all seriousness, you know, he's a dude. Like, from everything I've seen, he's such a giving actor. He's really great. And yeah, like I say, really happy to see his career. But this isn't a video, sadly, on Sanada-san. So like I say, this is the granddaddy of J-Horror for many of us. It's certainly the earliest one on my list. It's the first one I saw probably a few years after its release, but I was early 20s at the absolute latest. And I realised that this, along with basically the others that aren't Kaido, have a thing about urban legends, you know, these things we pass on. And maybe this was part of my interest, you know, or forming that interest in urban legends, because it's something that's fascinated me for a while. There's a lot of other stuff that involve urban legends that I probably will talk about in the future. But yeah, it's a bit of a theme. But another thing this does is that ebb and flow of tension. You know, you get your release. There's not the big jump scares. There are moments of scares, but they are built up to, and I think it does it really well. I mean, even the first scene, it sets you in a nothing is safe mentality, because we start with this, you know, this urban legend, oh, these kids saw this thing, and then they heard a phone call, you'll die in 7 days. And there's this face, you know, of like, oh, no, just kidding, no, didn't do anything. The phone rings, face of dread again. It's just mum. And so when it finally happens, we're like, okay, I do not know when it's a safe moment and when it isn't. That is really good for any horror to do. And that's what I appreciate with this and any of the others in this. They've all followed that mould of, we're not just going to throw a jump scare at you, we're going to build to it, we're going to make you feel uncomfortable, but we're going to make sure you do have the moments where you can relax. And this is one of those that it does build a sense of dread. Not quite to the same level of Kaido just constantly peaking at a level and staying there. But it does build a sense of dread and uncertainty of, you know, why this is all happening. And even does, you know, misdirects and things like that. We have great moments, you know, of suspense, of the Polaroid being taken even. You know, we don't see it. He takes it, lets it develop, hands it over. We don't see it until it's fully developed and we get that sting, you know. But it's not like a bam, it's, you know, like a soft sting almost. It's feel uncomfortable, don't jump out your seat. And yeah, it's so enjoyable, this film. But I said before that I'm learning Japanese at the moment, and one of the things that tickled me a little was when I was learning the word for video, I was like, oh, it's not video, as it's said in here, it's doga. And I had to look it up when I was watching this. I just paused and I had to go and check. And yeah, doga is more common. It's the often used one, especially for like internet videos. But in fact, video was the first word associated. It was literally a transliteration of the word because Japan doesn't have a V sound. So video was the closest. What that started to become associated with, though, was specifically like VHS, anything involving, you know, RCA cables, that kind of stuff. And it sort of separated itself out from other forms of, well, video. So I thought maybe it was, you know, over time the word had changed. Like, we have new words, you know, all the time, slang and things like that. I thought it was something like that, you know, an evolution of language. But no, it's an evolution of language, but it's much more interesting. It isn't that video doesn't exist, it's now just niche. And having that extra understanding, you know, allowed me to connect with this film differently. The fact that I'm learning kanji over time, I didn't know what the Sada kanji was in Arai, I didn't know what it meant. But there's 2 different ways, particularly, of writing Sadako. And one with this kanji kind of means like chaste child, like pure child, given that she was the child supposedly of a demon, or, you know, some kind of goblin from the sea. It's an ironic name, and you could argue that's a stretch, but in writing, names are probably chosen a lot more for a purpose. than just in general. Like, some of us, look at baby name generators and go, oh, that's a really sweet meaning and I want to use it. But many of us just go, I don't know, John. And there are people who are going to do that, but in writing you'll probably choose either names that you know well or names with a purpose. And there's one of the things that I saw, and I did that thing that I don't like to do, and it's not like I sought it out. I accidentally saw something saying this is a film about motherhood. I always like to have my own opinions. I mean, I've seen this enough times that yes, I've come to that conclusion to a degree. But I started looking at it through that lens, and it is about motherhood. Reiko could be criticised a lot for leaving Yoichi alone, and, probably leads to some of his weirdness. I mean, the fact that he's got a psychic dad has also led to some of his weirdness, but she's trying to do her best. She clearly cares for him, and even when she's leaving him a lot towards the end, it's because she doesn't want him to be without a mother or a father, because his dad's seen it now, Ryuji's seen it as well, and then he sees it. So to technically protect her family, she has to leave her family in a sense. And even the fact, I said last time about compassion being a core part of some of the stuff that I enjoyed, both J, horror and otherwise. When compassion is used as a tool to resolve the issue. I mean, it isn't technically the tool here, but when we've seen it for the first time and we don't know what the actual thing is, the fact she goes down into the well, she holds the skeleton, the remains of Sadako. She gives compassion. It's like, you were attacked, you were thrown down this well, you were left for dead, you tried to claw your way up, you died in the most awful way possible, but have a hug, It sounds very limiting when I say it like that, but it is this compassion, this understanding. It's like, you're not evil. Until we learn that, no, that isn't what undid it for you. It's the copying. And it doesn't undercut that moment of compassion. In fact, it shows that Reiko is a really, really positive, good person. It's just that she's, she has a life. She has to have a job so that she can feed Yoichi. She has to do this thing. Once she's on board with all this issue of the video and the curse, she has to resolve it to be there for Yoichi. She has to do it so that she will be there herself and that he will be there after he's watched it. And even when it's like, okay, I realise what it is now, she's bang, get there, drive, make sure we get copies made so that Yoichi's safe, so that then my granddad's safe. And I realised, I've probably thought it a few times, but I definitely realised this time watching, I'm like, is this like the non-STD version of It Follows? Is this what It Follows kind of was based upon? Because it is that idea, like, you watch it, then you need to make a copy for someone else to watch. If they don't watch it, you're not free of it. And it's kind of like It Follows. It will chase the last person, so you keep needing to have sex to get rid of it. And, as new people are born constantly, you've always got new people to watch the videos, and obviously once they come of age and It Follows, you've got people to pass it on to there. But yeah, it's just one of those things of like, this is very much that thing. And if that's what it's based on, I can't think of a worse thing to be based on, to be honest. But I do love this film, the whole idea of Onryo. I've dressed up as Sadako for Halloween's before, because this let me know that non-Western horror existed. And, I've then enjoyed stuff like 3 Extremes, which I didn't realise itself was a sequel to 3, and in fact has a Miike Takashi section, as I talked about last week. But things like that I would probably not have bothered with. And, a lot of the other stuff like Shutter from Thailand, I think, if I recall correctly. A lot of these things that I may have been closed off to, because I'm like, oh, no, I'll just watch like remakes if they come around, I've been given this window into the world, and I'm so happy. So as I said at the start, this is the end of J-Horror July, and we're now heading into American Remake August. So we're going to do the mystery one first, sort of like a palate cleanser of sorts, before we go for Pulse, The Grudge, One Missed Call, and then finishing with The Ring. I did this to myself. I have no one else to blame. I will say, actually, just before I end, I prefer the tape in this than the American one, but I'll discuss that when we get to it, so that's something to look forward to next month. But thank you very much for joining me on this journey, and yeah, like I say, next month's going to be fun. But until then, as always, take care.